At the time, I didn't know how important it was going to be, but knowing what we know now and what I'm screaming from the rooftops now about being bold in your faith, being bold in every single way. Obviously, being bold against tyranny, but it doesn't stop there. It has to be bold in your faith, and it has to be, you have to disciple your sons. That's our job. And so, even back then, I didn't know why, but I knew definitely that I wanted to help do what my dad did for me. My dad gave me such an awesome, example of what it is to take care of business and be a man. But now in practice, man, it's just like it takes on a whole new meaning.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back, guys, to another amazing and very exciting episode of The Superhuman Life. As always, guys, I'm your host, Frank Rich, and I just want to start off by letting you know how incredibly thankful and grateful I am to have you here with me today. Guys, what an amazing conversation we have on. Here for these last couple months, as we've been approaching episode 100 and kind of celebrating and recognizing, hitting that milestone, we've been bringing on some of our favorite guests from, the first 30 episodes. We had Elliot Holst returning. We had Rob Kowalski back on. And today we have a guest returning for the third time. Yes, this is this guest third time on the episode. We had him all the way back on episode 8, talking about building muscle on the carnivore diet. Then we had him and his wife on. Somewhere in the 20s. I don't recall the exact date, but we talked more about the role of parenting and porn in your kids and homeschooling, as they're two people that I have tons of respect for, very close personal friends of mine. And today we have Danny back on talking about fathering, talking about the role of a dad, talking about the role of men in society, talking about why men need to be strong, and then getting into Danny's latest project, which is a personal development, self-development book for kids. So yes, guys, we had the return of Danny Vega on the show today. For those of you guys that don't know Danny is a native of Miami, Florida, where he he didn't receive his degree from Miami, Florida, but in 2004, Danny received his bachelor's degree in political science from Columbia University, where he played football and was a 3-time Dean's List recipient. Now, Danny then went on to earn his Master's of Science in Human Performance from the University of Florida, where he worked with the national championship men's basketball team, along with the tennis and golf programs. He then went on to become the strength and conditioning coordinator for VCU basketball, helping the Rams to the 2007 conference championships and making it to the second round of the NCAA tournament. As a raw powerlifter, Danny has meet best of 640 squat in wraps, 610 squat raw. He's got a 400-pound bench recorded and a 700-pound deadlift. He's competed in indoor rowing, where he holds personal best of 119 in the 500-meter row, 14.5 in the 100-meter, and 389 meters in a minute for distance. All three of them are Florida State records. Danny's newest adventure is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We don't talk much about Danny's background in training, nutrition, raw power building. If you guys want that, that's episode 8. Like I said, today is about fathering. It's about raising strong kids. We share some personal revelations and personal stories. Guys, it's a conversation with Danny and I where we're inviting you to be a part of. But if you're a man out there and you have children in your life, so you're a father currently, today's conversation for you. If you're a single man and you have dreams and hopes of one day becoming a father, today's conversation for you. If you're a woman and there are men in your lives who are fathering children, today's conversation is for you. And if you are a young man working on developing and building his relationship maybe with his father here on earth or his heavenly father, today's conversation is for you. So without further ado, guys, let's get into unpacking unexplainable adventures, talking about the power of influence and raising strong children in today's society with Danny Vega. See you guys on the other side. Danny, my brother, welcome back to The Superhuman Life.
Dude, thanks for having me back, man. It's good to be back with you, bro. I'm so happy for how you're doing with the podcast. It's like I told you the other day, it's been awesome to see how much you've grown this podcast, and I know this is your baby. So thank you, man.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And you and Maura played, a very fundamental role in the early stages of, some of the success that we had out of the gates. I mean, you guys brought me on to Fat Fueled Family when I think I had a handful of episodes and really, elevated me from the beginning. And we've had you on here multiple times, and kind of what we've been doing here these past few months now as we kind of hit this, 100 episode mark, which I know for some people, they're thousands of episodes down the road. For me, I'm celebrating 100. I think it's a big deal. 90% of podcasts that ever get started never go past episode 3. And then of the 10% that make it past episode 3, another 90% never make it beyond episode 20. So getting to episode 21, like you're in the top 5% of all podcasts. And then obviously getting to 100 is something that, I struggle with being proud about anything that I'm doing these days, because I'm somebody that struggled with pride, but I am proud of what we're building here and the impact that we're having on the world. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation, just because you have so much to offer. I mean, people recognize and see you as a massive figure and influencer in the keto and in the muscle building space. Some of the work you've done with Ben, and we talked about carnivore in the first episode. We talked about homeschooling and whatnot. But I know at your core, Danny, and this is where I really want to take today's conversation. More than anything, I think obviously, your faith coming first, and maybe, your relationship with Maura coming second as a husband. I think the most important thing in your life, and correct me if I'm wrong, is your role and responsibility as a father. So I want to kind of just, maybe explore that a little bit. I want to obviously talk about this new project that you've been working on for a little while. That's for the parents and obviously for the kids out there. So we'll get into that. But Danny, did you always know you wanted to be a dad? I know we kind of talked in the first episode about the influence that your father had on you, but talk about, growing up, like if being a father was something you dreamt about doing, or when did that really become kind of a major role in your life?
Yeah, man, that's a really good question, and it all started. And I think you read this book. I think we've talked about Wild at Heart. Um, you know, I started going to church more regularly before Maura and I were married. I knew my role. I knew that I had to get her on board, and I knew that I couldn't force that. And so as I started to get her involved in the church that we were going to at the time, I got involved with the men's group, and we watched Courageous, and we watched, actually that might have been no, that was it. But we watched Courageous. I think it was Courageous. It was one of those movies, one of those Christian movies, and I read Wild at Heart, which anyone who's reading this, Frank and probably several of his guests have mentioned it already. So if you haven't read it already, I think take that as the indication that it's time, that God's telling you, I think it's time to do it now. And I just remember the fact that I was definitely pumped about being a dad. Like I knew that when I saw it, was like, I saw it as like a mission thing, because I saw the question in the book is like, do I have what it takes to be a man? That's the central question of the book. And, when you start to realize the injury, what keeps you from becoming that man. At the time, I didn't know how important it was going to be, but knowing what we know now and what I'm screaming from the rooftops now about being bold in your faith, being bold in every single way, obviously being bold against tyranny, but it doesn't stop there. It has to be bold in your faith, and it has to be, you have to disciple your sons. That's our job. And so even back then, I didn't know why, but I knew definitely that I wanted to help do what my dad did for me. My dad gave me such an awesome, example of what it is to take care of business and be a man. And so now in practice, I was always super excited about it. But now in practice, man, it's just like it takes on a whole new meaning, dude. Because when you mess up, you're so convicted. And we'll talk about, whenever you think it's appropriate, that story that I told you that I was going to tell. I was like, I'm going to save it for when we get on, because there's like this amazing lineage that comes from not being right with your walk with God. And I mean right meaning like at the heart of hearts, because I've been going to church, I've been tithing, I've been doing all these things, I've been vocal about my faith, I've been, everybody knows that I'm a Christian, but at the end of the day, the desire to be with God, to be in his presence, like where I'm at now and where in my actions I'm at now, I feel like we all have to be there as men, because the reason why is because of this revelation that I had with my sons, and that revelation that I had with my sons only came when I really, really, it's a change that I think you won't really be able to describe it until you go through it. And for those who understand what I'm talking about, I just like, what the heck was I doing before this? Like, how was I living before this? I thought I was Christian, which, I was. But then, as I really started to read the Bible more and more and more, I really just started to see like, man, I'm I'm not doing this right. I'm not living right. And then only when I did that was when I started to see all the areas which I was really sucking, like really, really bad. But now, because of my obedience, because of where I am now, now I'm starting to see all these things that I didn't see before. And my wife is amazing. My wife is so patient with me. I'm like, how did you not say anything? Like, and in her case, why would she say anything? She didn't really have that example in her home. So lucky for me, her expectations were low on a lot of things, because if you don't have that father in your house to show you how to parent, and she didn't have brothers, so she never saw what an example of a father that really is doing his job right is supposed to do. And I'm talking to you straight up live right now with something that just happened today. So I'm getting shown all these things, and today I just learned one, and I'm just like, obviously, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Lord. But at the same time, wow, was I an idiot? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. There's so much that we can unpack there. I definitely want to get to the story and just share with people more kind of this newfound revelation. I do want to get to your father though, and kind of unpack there a little bit, because I think you said something really important there with Maura, kind of maybe not having kind of a clear example or role model, lack of male, leadership in the home, both due to, no father and no brothers. And so how that kind of played a role in kind of what she, wasn't picking up on you. But you said something that, and we talked about your dad, a little bit in the first episode when we had you on in episode 8. So definitely go and make sure, because I think that played a fundamental role in your recovery. But here we're talking more on, the fathering side. So what were some of those examples or models that you picked up through from your dad?
My goal is for my son. I get emotional, man. I just thinking about this, but for my son to be able to say as quickly and clearly as I'm about to tell you, because it shows that it just he did it, man. Like, I can tell you right away. My dad was like, always have to work. You men, what men do is men work. Men go to work, and I'll go to work and I'll do whatever. My problem is, a lot of the time, if my head's in my behind, I'm like working and not respecting myself enough to work at something that's going to bring more of a return, that I don't want to say beneath me, but certain, like, I need to expect more of what I can do, not what people need to give me, but what I can do, like the type of work that I do. So I our business had fallen on hard times this last year, and I was doing some things on the side that I was like, very, very humbling, very humbling things and looking back at it, it's like, that's not what I'm called to do. But the bottom line, work. Okay. And my dad would always point out, if someone in his life, or he'd get off the phone with someone, and he'd be like, he'd always use it as like a teachable moment. And I took that from him, because I do that with my boys all the time. Like, when I have a chance, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. You see what I said when I mean that there's like, when you don't work, my dad says, ese tipo un cero a la izquierda, which means that guy is left of zero. That's a saying, like he's negative. Like, he is worth less than zero because he does not work. The other thing was, like, my dad was always like, my poor dad, I had to learn this one on myself. Don't ever drink. Don't drink. It's the biggest liar. It's going to tell you that you're going to have so much fun. And I know, dude, but with his heart, he really tried to get me away from his mistakes. Because my dad, as we covered in the show, is a recovering addict. And I hate to say recover. My dad, I don't use that language anymore, although I thought it was useful at the time. My dad is a recovered addict. He is, I used to always say recovering or in recovery, because I understand the sentiment. It's like, you can always go back, which is very true. But, if you're really following like AA, and the concept of following a higher power, come on, dude, this guy raised Lazarus from the dead. You don't think he's going to keep me from taking another drink? God can do anything. So my dad, he would always try to tell me to keep me away from alcohol. He always said, he always just, the way he treated my mom, dude, my dad, every single morning for the last 40 years, however, he goes outside, he puts water all over the car, so there's no, dew on the windows, there's no nothing. He always has it gassed up for her. He he ran his business, and my mom worked at Burger King corporate for. My mom is one of those people. She worked like 40 something years at Burger King corporate. She literally just retired a year or two ago, and he would have dinner ready for her, and don't get me wrong, for all the people that think, like, if you're a woman and you're listening to this and you think my dad is like, this superhuman, the other side of that was that my dad was also the head of the house, and like, my dad had the final say. So understand, as a woman, if you're looking for a man who does all these things, the other thing, because if we're following the Bible, I know that this is so hard to hear nowadays for people, but traditional roles, dude, like she always had the input, but if it came down to it, he made the decision, and that was that, And I'm just so beyond blessed that I have the same type of wife who is the type of person who's like pushing me into it. She's like, I want you to lead. Go. I'll follow. Just go. Like, I don't want the responsibility. And I think a lot of the time, without getting on a soapbox, that women nowadays have been so deceived by these roles that they feel like it's like. And I get it, because a lot of it comes from baggage. Like, you got a mom that maybe didn't have that situation, and they're always trying to look out for their daughters, or the culture says, well, don't let him treat you like that. And it's all a lie. It's all a complete lie, because when you see like how perfect God's order is, it's perfect. He literally says, men, love your wives, women, respect your husbands. Period. And I'm just like, yeah, all I want is respect. It's true. She doesn't have to tell me I love you once. She does not have to ever say I love you, because I will feel so loved just from the respect. And you know what? It made me cry the other day, dude, because out of nowhere, she just says, and I didn't tell her, but lately I've been crying a lot more too. That's a whole other thing, dude. I used to never cry. Now all of a sudden I'm crying all the time. It's crazy. But she just tells me, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, whoa, like, what is that? Just out of nowhere, she just said, I'm so proud of you. And that made my day, So those are the type of things that my dad has given me. And now at 40 is when I'm really starting to get the whole picture, because I've been doing a lot of it, pretty well. But then there's just these things that, like I said, it's amazing how the order works. Again, if the top of it is not where it needs to be, it trickles down, dude. It trickles down to my kids. It has trickled down to my kids. And I'll give you a few examples of how it has. But, and it just goes to show, when it's amazing when you are doing it the right way, that trickles down too. Because the Bible says that, if you are obedient, that, you are going to be blessed. I think it's like thousands of generations or 1,000 generations. But if you're not, you're cursed for like 4 generations or something like that. It's a verse about that. And it just goes to show, like, it really does. The sins of the father visit the children. And then if you're not paying attention, you're just going to get angry at your child when you should be angry at yourself. This is your bad. You got to just suck it up and take it,
Yeah, generational sin is my understanding of what you're speaking to there, and something, obviously, due to the work that that I do, and just kind of my own personal story, it's something I spend a lot of time processing and meditating and praying on. Probably not somebody that could articulate it scripturally the best, but I definitely do see how that has played out in my life, and now moving forward as somebody that's not yet a father. If I'm ever blessed with that opportunity, I want to be the one that kind of breaks that generational curse or sin or whatever term you want to label it there. So much you said there, man. I mean, first and foremost, I think I do want to touch on the addiction side of things here real quick, just because it's the work that I do and what I spend my life in hours centered on. I think when you were talking about your dad, recovering versus recovered, that's what I'm building all of Rebuilt Recovery on. I don't look at myself as a recovery coach. I look at myself as somebody that helps men change their identity. And I think what you're saying there is that identity change. When you go from somebody that is in the process of recovering to somebody that is truly recovered. And I believe that
just keep on calling yourself an addict,
Yeah,
I feel like
you're attached to that identity, and it's
Yep.
always going to sit at the center of your life. You're always going to be navigating these things. I talk about it all the time. How do you overcome pornography addiction? You have to become the man that is no longer addicted to porn, or become the man that no longer needs porn in his life. And that is a massive identity change. You also said something there about work. And this is a major theme of really the podcast here for the past 2 months. The Bible lays it out for us. you don't get a woman to complete you. You don't get a woman and then you find yourself and then you go out and you take on the world. You get clear on who you are first. Adam was given a job and a purpose in his life first. His job was to name all the animals, and then his purpose was to tend and protect the garden. Like God said, this is what you are called to do. It wasn't until Adam had successfully accomplished his job, all the animals were named, and was walking in his purpose of tending and protecting the garden, that God then say, you're not okay by yourself. Let me bring you a helpmate. So all the men out there, single, maybe, because we're going to have a vast audience. We're going to get into the fathering here in a little bit, but for the single ones out there, if you're struggling, like to maybe break through in life, you're struggling why you're not building momentum or why you're not having the financial success that you are, but you're seeking a partner, seeking relationships, this and that, you got it backwards here. And, you said a couple things there with, conservative, traditional morals and values, brother. That's what we talk about here. We had Elliot Holst on the show a couple weeks ago. His entire,
he's been strong about that. And
very strong
platform. So
very strong. And, he's now doing work with Colleen and his wife, and they're now starting to lead women as well. So it's really cool to kind of see some of the things that he's building, but that's right in line with everything we talk about here. So don't feel bad about, pushing buttons or rubbing people the wrong way. I do have a goal though. My goal is to get Danny Vega crying by the end of the show. So let's see if we can get that one.
If anything, you could do it now, dude. Because I promise you, I was like stone faced my whole life, and then anything with my wife and my kids would make me cry. But I think, dude, I've known this fact about myself already for about 5 years, and in the last 2 years, I've really focused on it more. But I've only seen, obviously, the fruits of it are me crying more. So it's obvious that I'm feeling all the feelings. I am the worst. I never ask for help. I never, it's a pride thing. It's 100% pride, And that's the other thing for anyone listening. If you think that doubting yourself or questioning yourself and what other people are going to think is in any way humility, you need to let that go. It's not. It's not humility. I promise you, this is my revelation to myself, like that I got, is that how could I be so prideful to be like, what are they going to think? Now I'm like, yeah, that was pride. And I had to look at it that way for myself for me to be able to just really let it go. Because I obviously I don't care what people think on a lot of stuff, but being vulnerable is different than being confident about sharing details of my life that other people may be embarrassed about. It's a different, it's levels, right? I think it's like a even more higher level of vulnerability when I can truly let myself feel. Like, dude, the fact that I don't remember, like this, it's been like several times in the past couple of weeks that I'm like, I remember, dude, I had just gotten off the phone with a buddy of mine because I'm just out there, like, I'm like, am I gonna go be a street preacher? Like, am I gonna go literally scream with like the Bible in my hand and start doing this? Like, is that really what's going to happen? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's kind of how I feel now. And I get off the phone with my friend because we prayed at the end, and I just started crying because I'm like, thank you for putting me on this planet right now. The fact that God put us here now, everybody needs to know we are so blessed. This is the grand finale, whether it's in our lifetime or our kids' lifetime. What's the prophecies that are being fulfilled right now with everything that's going insane in the world? And you need to understand, like, do not be afraid of the tidings of men, because that is a snare, that is a trap. All the things they're telling us about everything that's going to happen, let it go. Let all that go. Fear of the Lord is the only thing that matters. And because of that, and because I realized, to me, that it may not be the same for everybody, but for me, I really did feel like not being vulnerable for me and not letting myself feel those feelings was a form of pride for me. And I'm like, that makes sense, because like pride is pretty much my biggest sin. Like, that's why the street preacher example that I just made up, that probably, I don't think that's going to be it, because I love being in front of people. I'm comfortable in front of it. I love it. Give me the attention all day,
Yeah. And I mean, not knowing much more about, other than what you just shared with this whole street preacher, brother, you got 50,000 people following you on Instagram. Like that's a much bigger audience than you're going to get on any street corner. You have thousands of listeners on your podcast. You guys have a YouTube channel with somewhere between 8,000 to 9,000, I believe. Like there's a lot of people that want to hear what Danny has to say. So I think speaking as a friend here, like I would encourage you to take whatever it is you're feeling you need to preach from a street and share it into this microphone that's going to reach a much larger audience than just,
And I learned that's what it's for. That's what he gave it to me for. That's 100%. I had that revelation the other day too. Like, it's like, why do you think I gave you those 50,000? Because you know about building muscle. There's a million people that know how to build muscle. They not only they're smart, they're better at marketing, they're better at other stuff, and you know they have a higher following. Why do you think I give that to you? And I'm just like, this is why. This stuff, this meat right here that people are getting, dude. This is why I have it.
This is my life, man. This has been the last 2.5 years inside of Frank's head. Like I banged my head up against the wall, trying to build a muscle building business, trying to become a second version of other people that we know, people that we're friends with. I was a secondary version of Ben Pokulski. I was a secondary version of hypertrophy coach. I was regurgitating things that worked for me, but they weren't me. They weren't my message. And I would struggle all the time to create content. I was good at doing videos and articulating things, but I would have to watch like 10 videos to create one piece of content. Now I've done a video every day since July 28th of last year. All I do is turn lights on, flip the camera on, and the message comes through me. Like I have an idea written down of what I want to talk about. And that's as far as I go, as far as the preparation. Amazing. Literally, once the camera is on, I just feel like I'm a channel that is sharing a message that is being sent through me. And I truly believe like that now, the work that I'm doing and all the studying and personal development, picking up Tony Robbins when I was 20 years old, studying bodybuilding, you know, dedicating myself to contest preps, all that. Those weren't to get me in a position where I could help people build muscle. Those were to develop character traits. Those were to develop discipline. Those were to challenge me, to give me knowledge that now 20 years after I've been doing all this, I now can stand on this platform and, like I said, help men change their identity, help men overcome their compulsive behaviors. I think there's going to be a lot of people, and I'm kind of shocked here too to hear you say that you're just now finding real vulnerability. Like, because I've known you for a long time, and anybody has followed you, you've opened up and shared quite a bit about your past, about, you know, your beliefs, some that I agree on, some that I don't. But can you share a little bit more about kind of this personal revelation that maybe has come and how this is kind of opening some things up for you, and get to this story that happened earlier today as well?
For sure. I think the best way to describe it is like, you know how the Bible says you will know them by their fruits. And so you see those fruits and you say, Danny's vulnerable. And I totally get it. Those are fruits that I'm putting out, right? Those are fruits that are being planted out. And look, they're growing, they're doing good. I know I've helped some people. I know that my stories have helped people. I know that, you know, things that I've shared, people have said, you know what, thank you for doing that. Because I had thought about that. And, you know, it's good to know that someone who I think has their stuff together shared that. But then at the same time, it's all about what's in here. This mind, even though it's a spiritual battle, the battle is in the mind. And like what's in my mind and in my soul personally, and what I'm going through, which will never be, no one could ever experience my experience. No one could ever experience your experience. The fruits in my mind is like, I promise you, bro, like I straight up like borderline sociopath. Maura, you know, you've been there all the times we joke about it. It's like Danny does not care. And I know that serves me too, because if someone messes with my family, it's like, there's no hesitation. Like, I know that I will kill a man. And I'm sorry, I'm not just, you know, but that's just, I have no sympathy. And at the same time, it bothers me because I know that I have no empathy, and it's a deep problem to where you don't have it. It's zero. So imagine if you don't have zero, you're like, well, of course I'm not going to think of asking my wife if she wants something when I go to a place that she likes to eat, and I go get myself something to eat, and I come back home with nothing, and she's like, you know, I love that place. Why didn't you get me something? Oh, I didn't even think about you. Like, oh, I didn't even think about that, you know? And so, or that's one example. Another example is like I said, dude, I never feel feelings. Like I'm just like walking around, like I'm passionate about stuff. But when it comes to like the feelings of just those emotions that I don't like, I like anger. I've been angry really, and I've gone through anger management. I had to go through anger management in middle school. You know, I like that emotion. I'm comfortable there. I don't like feeling sad. I really don't like feeling sad at all. And that's a big one. and just overwhelming emotions that I've had. That's what I'm talking about with me. So like I said, it's not that I wasn't vulnerable. It's just that it just hit a different level internally for me, that I'm like it's taking some getting used to, because I'm in situations where I'm talking about something and all of a sudden, like, I can't predict that I'm gonna cry. I'm like, that's really weird, like I never had that issue before ever. I'm the one who is at the funerals, and I'm just like, and it's just like there's nothing. And you know with my family, only certain times that people that were close to me, that I love them so much, and now I'm feeling these emotions and they're coming out. It's like that was being suppressed by something outside of me. I really do truly believe that. And that's why, again, it's like what we talked about before we got on the air, how I said, like, I'm trying to just be as obedient as possible, because I personally felt throttled in other areas of my life. And to me, now seeing what I see and knowing just how, look, I'm at a place, bro. I'm in Old Testament, biblical times, where back then, when you saw someone acting a certain way, you knew that they had a demon in them, And not saying that I have a demon in me, but I definitely have demons that could oppress me, spiritual forces. Everybody says spiritual warfare, spiritual warfare. Do you really understand? Because if you do, you would know that that person right there does not have dissociative disorder. Okay, that you're not gonna fix that with drugs. Okay, they're not gonna, like, to me, I'm at a point where it's like, again, he raised Lazarus from the dead. You don't think he's gonna fix this? And let's stop ignoring these really strong spiritual forces that, as we get closer and closer, like you saw the Travis Scott concert, you saw the things that are happening right now, veils are being lifted. And I think we should be aware of that, because once you are, you're not going to be afraid. Because, like, imagine not seeing that, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, you just get caught off guard. I hate being caught off guard. Now I'm just like, let's go, bring it. And I've had conversations with people already in this short period of time, where I'm like, let me ask you something, because I'm like, am I addressing a human in my mind, or am I addressing something else that's inhabiting that human? Like, do you practice Wicca or something? And I've had people where because they kept on doing the same different things and telling me the same, and I was trying to talk to them, and they're like questioning God. I'm like, man, you sound like the serpent in the garden. You sound just like it. Do you practice? And this one person that I spoke to asked this person twice. They haven't answered me, and now I've had to reach out to them and still haven't gotten contacted back. And now I'm like, literally prayed in a message to them, over them, because I don't know if I'm talking to them. So this is why I feel like now is the time to really, really, really go all out crazy. Like, you know who John Gabbana is? You know who that guy is?
Mm-mm.
He's this big, tall guy, right? And he's like, he got famous for just like doing crazy, crazy things on the internet, that, like, he would just go into a restaurant and just like wreak havoc. He was on all types of drugs. This guy all of a sudden is Christian now. He got saved completely, black and white. He got rid of all of his previous social media, and he just goes out there, and now just this weekend I saw he went to a mall. Typical, like, again, what you said, God used that, and that spirit in him, the way he created him to be that way. And now this guy stands up and he's like, attention everybody. He's like screaming to everybody, like, I had, my life was changed, follow Jesus, blah, 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 blah. And you see people kind of walking towards him, like, is this guy, am I gonna, like, the security is gonna have to apprehend him, like, and they don't know what's going on, they don't know if he's gonna do something. And I see that spirit of like, hey, chill, hey, not that crazy, okay, come on, we got to be a little bit more, let's be more civilized here. And I think of that, and then I think of John the Baptist, who ate bugs and wild honey and had his hair all messed up, and I'm like, these people will stone John the Baptist. Like, this is where we're at, and we need to get rid of that. We need to be more bold now, because, again, this is the type of stuff right now, the spiritual side of things. This is what's really, like, I'm seeing it, and I want other people to see it, because I know that a lot of people are being deceived. And I'm not saying that your life is going to get better. If anything, my life is probably, I get worried sometimes for my family for being so bold about this stuff now. Obviously, I know that that's not of God, because the righteous are bold as a lion. The people who are not following God, they flee at their own shadow. But at the same time, like, that's where I feel we have to be now, because it's led to the revelations that I'll share with you, like the story of my kids, when we get there. But yeah, that's where I'm at, man.
Yeah, no, I'm, once again, I'm not, a biblical scholar by any means, but I don't think it says anywhere in either the Old or New Testament that, once you become a Christian, like your life is supposed to get
Oh
easier.
no, yeah,
Yeah, we have
yeah, for
favor,
sure.
but this walk is definitely not one that's going to be, easy and, effortless or challenging, challengeless. Um, got a personal question here that,
Yeah.
you're talking about, suppressing some of the emotions, not really feeling things. What, if any, do you think your study of Stoicism had to do with that? And if it did play a role, how has your understanding of Stoicism or belief in
That's
the
good.
philosophical approach changed since you've had this newfound revelation?
That's really good. I'm glad you brought up Stoicism, because I still say that I love the principles of Stoicism. There were several of the apostles, of the disciples, who were Stoic. They were practicing Stoicism. Like Paul was very Stoic. Like being in the prison, and like, and these things, like Peter. Like to live is to die is gain. It's like to die a martyr is gain. If it's for God. Um, and I still 100%, um, you know think that Stoicism, but I just see it now, and because I've been reading a lot of other books too, like Bible books, but then all the books that I'm reading that are not Bible books are also kind of in this same thing. Some of them are historical, and dude, it broke my heart to know how rough Marcus Aurelius was on Christians. He was brutal to the early church, and that really killed me, man. Because, but I'm glad again. I'm glad because this guy I got right here. I'm looking at Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. I got, they're hanging on my wall, and I used to really venerate these people. And any historian who hears me say and understands the real history, that like Jesus is my favorite and Marcus Aurelius is second, would be like, but wait, he didn't like the people who followed that. So, but I understand again, living at the time of Marcus Aurelius, like he actually thought that that was just this different story. And now I know that the story of the Bible is the story of the whole world. And the whole world is trying to tell everybody that like we have these Greek gods and we have these other things, we have, and they don't understand that all of them are part of that same Bible story. So I don't blame them. But it's good. It's good. I like killing my idols. So if it's another idol that I killed, then that's good. But I think the Stoicism, it's not like I'm not gonna blame Stoicism for me, because Stoicism, you acknowledge it. You acknowledge it, and you do say, if you got to, this sucks or whatever it is, and you feel the feeling and you move on. Like that's the everybody going back to the Stoicism thing. Like everybody tends to think, because it's used as an adjective for people who are just, their personality is just stoic, like that is their disposition. But we know that Stoicism is a practice of being even keeled, of equanimity. The like the no matter what the outcome, if it's good, good. If it's bad, good. If it's really awesome, good. If it's sucky, good. It's all good. you know
Yeah, it's an understanding that you can't control what happens to you. The only thing that you're in control of is your response to it.
exactly,
Not even your
exactly.
reactions, but your response. Just a question, like I said, it was something that I hadn't planned to ask you until we started to talk about some of those emotions. Because I know for me, definitely the less mature version, the more immature version of me that wanted to be a stoic, like when I first, and I'm nowhere as far as understanding it, and not as well read and versed in it as you are. I've read some of the books. I've studied Aurelius and Seneca and whatnot to a small degree. Probably a lot of my stoicism I've picked up through Ryan Holiday's more modern explanation of it. But I definitely fell into the trap of thinking like if you're truly practicing stoicism, it means you don't allow yourself to feel emotions. And something that I kind of had maybe a personal revelation on this over the summer. with a trip that I took up to the mountains with somebody that, you know, personally. It was understanding that all of these emotions, the sadness, the crying, the happiness, like this is this experience. Like you said, you're having a unique experience. I'm having a unique experience. And inside of that experience, I have the ability to cry and be happy. I have the ability to be sad and incredibly joyful, like at the same time. And the more I can understand how the sad is just an emotion in the moment, it makes the happiness that much more enjoyable, because you can't truly be happy if you haven't experienced sadness. So for me, it's something that just this, you know, couple of weeks ago, and it kind of played a role in us recording this podcast. There's a passing of a dog that played a, you know, very, very major role in my life. And that night when I found out, like, I mourned like the passing of a family member. I mean, there were like 2 hours I was in the bedroom and bathroom. Like I literally was sitting on the shower, the water just hitting me, playing I'll Be Missing You, the song that they wrote for Biggie Smalls. But
Oh my gosh.
but it was like feeling those emotions and processing it to the degree that I did enabled me to next day to wake up and move on with my day. And it hasn't really impacted me since then. It's like I felt it in the moment. I processed, I mourned, I thought about all the good times that I had with him while he was here. And I know that I'll see him again when that time comes. So talk about this incident today. We've kind of mentioned it here a few times with your kid. And I think that'll kind of transition us into the next phase here with the book and whatnot, because I know your kids are playing a role in what happened.
Unrelated, but there's one that happened today's. Yeah, actually it was yesterday, but then I'll tell the one today. The one yesterday, pretty short. You know Dean, man. You know Dean. Dean is hardcore. My youngest, he's 7 years old. My oldest is 10. My oldest is just the big sweetheart. Just everybody loves him. And Dean is like this warrior. Like he just gets angry at stuff, and he doesn't, you know, it's funny because they're both like me, but like, you know, one of them has like one trait really, really crazy pronounced, and the other one has another trait really, really crazy pronounced.
Yeah, I think it's important for maybe some of the listeners that don't know. I mean, Dean had a very traumatic incident happen at around 4 years old. I mean, like he, you know, got hit by a truck. It was kind of, you know, very life-threatening accident. So he's tough. And then his brother, obviously, you know, had to step in and care for his brother. So there's a reason. I mean, obviously they had their unique character traits, but they've also had, you know, unique experiences that have led them to how they are personally.
And just like Desmond's never met somebody he doesn't like, and Dean's like he's got I don't know, like you'll ask him a question, and then like he won't answer you until he like knows if you could trust
him.
Dude,
we went to church every week together for like 6 months
he
straight.
Give you 5 for forever, right?
For the longest time, I was like, does this kid even like me? Like Desmond would come, hang out, we'll have a conversation, leave dad and mom over there. I was like, yeah, we'll talk about life or whatever. Dean, 6 months in, I was like, does this kid even like me?
But then like once he does, like he's good, you know? Which I just think is so cool, man, because that's not how I am. Like I'm the one who just automatically, like, I like the person, then I'm like, later on, you know, like, that's Dean. He's just like, so, you know, it was just the situation's not important. It had to do with like a bike, and you know, they're riding the bike and then lending it to friends, and Dean is like, he wants the bike back, and these, you know, everyone there is older than him. So imagine, like, you know, he's the youngest one. It's easier for him to get frustrated, and dude, he just lets out a bunch of bad words, man. And just like screaming and saying bad words, and like the old me would have just let him have it, you know. And this goes back again, you know, I pride myself in really working hard not to say bad words, but when I get to that point, it just goes, you know. And that's something that my dad too. I got that from my dad. We just like, when we get pissed off, we just let them out, and just a whole bunch of bad words and screaming and all this stuff. And yesterday was really when it actually, dude, it really hurt me. You know, I said, go get your, you know, Desmond comes in, tells me, I said, go get him, tell him to come in. And, you know, Dean comes in, but by the time he came in, my heart felt for him so much, you know, because this is my fault, you know, like this is my fault, like, because my son will not suffer a hypocrite. He cannot stand it. Like, and that's why, like, if I were to punish him for that, that would have planted a seed, a really bad seed in there for him to like, and it would have rotted inside of him. And it would have been this anger of, why is my dad every time he gets mad, or at least when he gets really, really angry, letting him off and screaming bad words. And now he's telling me I can't do it. And I knew that when he said, but I was really mad. And that's what I've said. I've said, I'm sorry, boys. I'm really sorry. I don't mean to say bad words, because I apologize. I always would apologize if I say bad words. and he's apologizing, but he's like, but I was mad, just like you always say when you're mad, that's the thing. And I'm like, look, and I just was like, look, buddy, I want you to know. I was like, do you ever talk to God? And he's like, I don't know, like he's only 7, but I'm just trying to plant that seed in there. I want him to know that if he goes to God, that God could help him with stuff. And and I always tell him, it's not to, don't ask God for a toy. Ask God to help you with the things that really are bothering you, like that you could fix about yourself. And I just was, I really just was so soft with him, and I just really loved on him. And then I came to his brother, and I had his brother come in, and because then he was telling me some things that just his story, the other story, and the bottom line was that at the end of that conversation, I said, look, I know that when I'm in here and I'm working, and it's true, because these kids never respect me, dude. Like, I'm like, listen, I'm not here. Okay, do you understand? I'm not here. And then they'll be like, okay, papi, okay. And then it's like 20 minutes later, either a fight breaks out and they come to get me when I told them they need to fix their own stuff, take care of your stuff, handle it together. You need to take care of this. I'm not going to fix it. I'm not going to do anything. Like, if you're going to rat on your brother, and I've said that to Desmond a ton of times, unless I gave him specific directions, if you rat on your brother, I'm going to start punishing you. You have to be closer than anything. Your only role as the brother is to love your brother and watch out for him, and take care of him. But I said, look, I know that when I'm really busy with work, that it's an inconvenience, and I'm not going to pretend like when you come in, there's probably going to be times that I'm going to be annoyed. But listen to Papi when he tells you, when you get pissed off like that, come get me. Okay? Because your little brain doesn't have the right tools to tell you what to do. So hurry up, run inside. And that is literally Viktor Frankl, between the space, the space in between stimulus and response. That's exactly him coming to me right away, run, is giving him that space. And then every time he talks to me, like, my relationship with that boy is just the specialist thing ever, And when I have him come into me, are you going to do it? You're going to do it? No, not. Nope, went away. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. Yeah, when he comes in and he talks to me, it's like he softens, dude. You should see. I always, and it happens. That's been happening ever since he got run over, and we spent those 2 weeks together in the house, quality time, when Maura was taking Desmond to school to the homeschool stuff, and we got so close. And now he really does trust me. That's a feeling that I really want everybody to feel. I want you to feel that feeling. So I definitely want you to be a dad too, because it's just like, I know that if he's going to start doing that, I'm going to help him through that as his little brain grows, because his frontal lobe is just not there. I can go to the next story unless you have any questions. I could talk about
today. Let's get to the next one for sure.
So this is what happened today. Remember I told you, like, I came out of this meeting at 12 o'clock. No one was ready. No one knew what time it was. Maura had been asleep, and our kids, we have to leave the house at 12 to take them to their homeschool co-op. And, I'm like, sure, I'll go. I'll take them, whatever. But I go, and the kids aren't dressed. Nothing. They're not even dressed. And then they're trying to leave the house. Dean's trying to leave the house in his brother's sandals that are 2 sizes too big, 3, whatever. And Desmond's, walking out like with Crocs and not dressed normal. And I got really, really angry. But all of a sudden, the coolest thing happened. See, my kids don't have chores. My kids don't do anything in my house. And, they do the bare minimum. And that's talk about being vulnerable, because that is me being vulnerable. Like, they just, there's certain little things that they do. I ask way too little from them.
Why is that?
It's my fault, dude. I didn't, like, they do like I said, they do the bare minimum. Like, they do the bare minimum. Perfect example. If something is not one of theirs, If it's the other ones, they say, oh, that's not mine. And that was bothering me so much because I'm like, everything that I pick up, if I, if I'm walking around the house and I'm cleaning up, none of it is mine. But we all live in this house, like everything your mother and I do, when we're cleaning things up, this is your stuff. All we do is clean up after you all day, And I was like, I felt like God right there was like, pfft. And I thought of this and I was like, congratulations, you are entering into a whole new time of your life. And I said, mark it, 11/15/21, November 15th, 2021, the day you stop being spoiled brats. Because this is my fault. I have friends who are on the same page as us, who are like, consider themselves leaders in the community, dad, and they do a ton of stuff good, they do a ton of stuff well. But this stuff like of trying to do the bare minimum, always like never picking up stuff that's not yours because it's not yours and all this other stuff. And then not having the self-respect to dress yourself in a certain way. I feel like it all trickled down from my lack of creating that environment. And so they don't have chores. Like, dude, these kids, I like Desmond to earn money. That's something that we never buy them anything. So in their defense, they're not spoiled as far as, because they don't get things, dude. They really don't. Like, we did, not last Christmas, the one before, we did a no gift Christmas, so like we don't buy them stuff, and they're very grateful in that sense. But at the same time, they are not contributing to this house. And this house, we've told them with empty words that we all are a part of this house and we all are a team and we all have to keep this house clean. And I was like, thus saith Danny, you are no longer in Eden. You have been kicked out of Eden. You have been kicked out of paradise. Remember it, because before you would walk around all day and play and do all the things that you love to do and never be asked to do anything. And now you will have to, basically by the sweat of your brow, you're going to work. And so obviously when they come back, they're going to have a bunch of stuff to do. Like, Dean doesn't know how to do his laundry. He's only 7. I get it. But Desmond at least knows how to do his laundry. But here's the problem. It's like all these little things. Desmond does his laundry. It takes 3 days for that laundry to get put in in the drawers, and it'll just be out forever. And, so now it's perfect. I'm like, I always do the dishes. I always do all this stuff. And I used to like think, they're just kids. But I have friends like my buddy Jeremy, great dad, a Marine, and a great dude. And like he runs it like these kids are on, like they have whiteboards everywhere of their daily chores and daily stuff. And so now, and I told them, this is not a punishment. I want you to be really grateful for this, because God just told me that I wasn't doing my job. But the cool thing is, you're going to get to learn from my mistakes. And when you're my age and when you have kids, and when your kid, the first time that, you try to implement what I'm about to implement with you guys, and they give you any type of, back talk, or they cry or whine, you're going to let them know exactly why. Because if we were to wait, I told Maura this on the way home as I dropped them off, I was like, I can't believe we didn't do this 1 second too early. If we waited one more day, because listen to this. Number one, imagine trying to get a 12-year-old kid who's never really had chores or anything like that to really start to get this real structure, because they have structure and they do work and they do stuff. But a lot of the time it's like, Papi, I'm trying to make money. What can I do for you? And I'm like, do the dishes, and I'm like, and I let him negotiate deals. So it's like, oh, that's a $1 job. That's a $2 job, But now I'm like, you have been cut off. You will no longer make any money in this house from chores, because now it will be expected of you. And the best part about it is that you will not fight anymore either. These kids fight all the time. You're not going to have time to fight. And you want to hear the most beautiful phrase that I've never heard yet, but I'm going to hear it so many times. I'm sorry, I can't play. I have to finish my chores. Because that is the life you lost. And you're going to remember the good times, but then you're going to realize that they were fake. They were not reality. And you cannot continue to live in this fake world. So there's my big blind spot that I didn't see. And I was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you so much. And I texted him out and I'm like, and that's why I told you, like, thank God that you didn't have that experience of having the right father in the house. Because a long time ago, you would have kicked my butt out. You would have been like, what are you doing? You know, what are you here to do? Are you really here to be a dad? Because you're not being a dad right now. Because yeah, there's certain things, and Desmond, he'll shake your hand, he'll look you in the eye. You know, it's like a bunch of stuff, but it's very thorough, dude. The our job of creating men and discipling them in the word. I do that 100% all the time. But this is one big area where you got to get your crap together, man. You got to be, presentable. You got to be, that's the other thing. Take care of your thing, your appearance, and don't just walk around all day, with your hair uncombed, things like that. That it's gonna start shaping up. And I'm just grateful. It sucks that I waited this long, but again, I don't think I could have seen it because where I was.
It probably wouldn't have had the impact that I know it's going to have if you weren't able to come into it in the way that you did. Hey, Dean and Desmond, like, you're going to learn from Poppy's mistakes here. And it's like, you've already kind of lowered, that guard there. It's like, hey, I didn't have this perfect. Like, we're
Yep.
we're all in this together. And I love that you're helping them with their relationship, and you're helping them with prayer. And something he said, way back, when you first started sharing that story, it's like, don't go pray for toys, pray,
Yeah.
pray for God to walk alongside you in your other everyday challenges. I mean, if nobody took anything from this entire conversation other than that, like, speaking specifically to the men that I'm helping and serving, God is not going to make porn disappear. I wish that it was. I wish that we could all unite together and bring our prayer warriors in, and we'd all wake up tomorrow and it's vanished from the earth. But it's not. Why don't you pray for God to give you the strength, to give you the discipline, to give you the wisdom to make those proper choices, so you no longer return back to it? Because it's in the developing of those things that not only are going to be able to overcome this challenge, but you're going to be able to really do anything you want in your life. So I think you're doing an amazing job, and I appreciate you for sharing that, that vulnerable story there, with just how it's opening up things in your own life and in your own journey with your kids and fathering. Let's get into Unexplainable Adventures and finish up here with the book. I know it's close to being available. Depending upon the time that you guys are hearing this, it may or may not be out there. What's the genesis of this whole idea? Where did the idea to write this children's book come? And then kind of tell a little bit people about what they can expect, and then where they can go find it, and so forth.
Dude, it all came from my partner, my buddy Adrian. He called me going back 2019, I think 2019 at the end of the year. I don't know, the last year I'm confusing 1 to 2 years because it's like 2020 is so weird. But it started off with, because we were doing marketing work together. Like, I was working as an affiliate with him where he works, at his company. He works for Health Gains with Gainsway. So um, so he calls me up. He's like, I just, unrelated. I have a question. I'm working on a kid's book, like, and he starts telling me like how, he hasn't seen this, and he has a younger brother that he reads to his younger brother. And he's just like, I haven't seen, have you seen this? Like, personal development books that are storybooks for kids. And I'm like, not really. I mean, there's everybody. A lot of people have, personal development books for or books for kids. It's kind of a cool thing. It is. Once you're a dad too, like, you notice, like, the other day, whoever I was talking to is like, obviously Jocko, Tom Bilyeu, these guys, they got like children's books, but the only thing that I really knew of was we had read the Tuttle Twins series, and the Tuttle Twins basically takes economics and philosophy books and turns them into kids' storybooks. So, really important topics, like, especially for today, because we're talking about the, personal liberties and things like that, sovereignty. And I said, actually, not that I know of, man. And he would just ask me questions here and there. And then, like, on our second or third conversation of him asking me and just asking me questions, he's like, wait a second, do you want to write this with me? And that's how it started, dude. And it was just the most amazing experience. Adrian's a real cool, laid back guy, and we just get along so well. We work so well. And, the bottom line is, this is going to be a series. This is a series. It's called Unexplainable Adventures. The first one is called The Power of Influence. And Adrian and I both agreed that we wanted to start with How to Win Friends and Influence People because it was such a pivotal book for both of us. I read that book as I was getting out into the corporate world, as I left, strength and conditioning, because one of my buddies who was a mentor to me, he said, you got to read this. If you want to be good in sales, you got to read this. And so the main character is Memphis Smith, and every single book, the reason why we call them Unexplainable Adventures is because it's going to revolve around children with special abilities. But we're going to tie those special abilities into the story that we are adapting in that book, the whatever book. So How to Win Friends and Influence People, we know it's all about, you got to remember people's names. You got to be genuinely interested. You got to pick your battles. You got to know how to resolve conflict, without violence or without force. And that's a big one, right? Like people like, oh, wow, all the online stuff. And you also got to know how to, to pick your battles. So like one story, for example, is like he's talking about his father's first day at work, and they get into a discussion with his boss about a quote that one of them says Einstein said it, the other one said no, this one said it, and his dad was stubborn, and it's like pick your battles, dude. You don't want to argue with this person. Of course, the father gets fired on his first day at work, and he was a really talented scientist, and he loses his job. So we use the protagonists in the story, Memphis, Dr. Libertas, who's his mentor, all of the other characters throughout their stories and all that, to inculcate all of those principles. And then sometimes we also use, the antagonists, the bad guys, to kind of show you what not to do. And then, this illustrator that we got is brilliant because she was the one who had the idea. When you see the cover, at least, because we decided to go without illustrations in the book right now because it took so long to get a cover that we liked, and we went through several illustrators that but still you'll be able to see it in the cover. So you see that the good guys, their ears are bigger because they listen better, and the bad guys have these little old tiny ears because they don't know how to listen. And so on top of the book, which I've gotten really good feedback already from my friends who I've shown it to, who have read it, and it was so fun to write. There's a glossary in the back where you get to see where did this character come from. It's a lot of personal influences in my life, in Adrian's life, stories. What is the real story behind that? Maybe another personal story. But the coolest thing is the fun book. So the fun book is, taking knowledge and putting it into practice, because knowledge without action is dead. It's nothing. You might as well. So obviously the typical, word search, crossword puzzles. We even have Mad Libs in there. There's a maze. But there's also, at the beginning of the book, there's a page where you stand and you read this out loud and you commit to it. And it's like, I am going to commit to reading this book within 1 month. I know I can do this. My parents are here to keep me accountable. And it's basically committing to that. And my favorite part of the fun book, and I can't take credit for this one because I did all the stuff, like, ooh, I get to do a crossword puzzle now. Like I've never done making that stuff. That was really fun. But it's like what he did was he has this challenge page on the fun book, and this is a keeper, dude. This is, if for nothing else, obviously you get the chapter kind of like the quiz at the end of a chapter that you can go through with the parents, and the parents can be involved. But this fun book is going to add the most value, this challenge, because imagine how cool it is that these kids are going to be able to say, okay, today I'm going to go find 3 people who I don't know, and I'm going to find out one thing about them. Or today I'm going to remember 5 people's birthdays. I'm going to write down 5 people's birthdays. Or today I'm going to remember everybody's name that I speak to. I mean, think about it. We were trying to do that, 25, 30 years later as adults. So I just really think that's going to add so much value to get kids. Because as it is, dude, I mean, kids are just becoming more awkward because they're not developing that muscle of not only meeting people, making a good impression, understanding social cues, but then at the same time, in a professional situation, man, you got to make a good first impression. And if you're buttoned up on that, and if like Dale Carnegie says, like when you actually care, when you genuinely care, people know, people see it, and if it's in between buying your widget and this guy's widget, and you genuinely care, or doing business with you in some other way, or even meeting the right girl, even meeting the right woman, that's where it's really going to provide the most value.
I love that. Yeah. And as the world gets more and more digitally connected, it's going to be those that have the in-person communication skills that are going to rise above. And, only God knows, what the future holds. Are we all going to live inside of the metaverse, or are we all going to sit here and wear goggles and never leave our home? I don't believe that's going to be the case, because human beings, we're wired for personal connection. If we don't get physical touch, like
we'll get sick
and die, and that's been proven. I've talked about that obviously quite a bit, but dude, I love this so much. What ages is the book for?
That also evolved, because we were thinking at first maybe like anywhere from like 8 to 12, but as we wrote the story, there were times where we were like, dude, this is dark. we gotta because there's a time there, because imagine, his power when he wakes up from a coma from a virus. Go figure. There was a little bit of an influence there on how he got his powers for this book. It starts with telepathy, and it develops into telekinesis. And there's a time there when he's like getting really angry, and like he almost lets himself go. And I think that's a good thing to see too, because especially, obviously, the main character here is a boy. And the reason why we love Unexplainable Adventures is because it's not going to follow him. His story has been told. It leads into a little bit of a cliffhanger. I don't want to say cliffhanger because this story is complete, but there is a character that's introduced at the end who's a female. And so the next book, and that's the other thing that was hilarious. So we realized about halfway through the book, we only had dudes in it. It's like, dude, we had the love interest, and the mom, and actually it started off as his dad, but we switched it to his mom. So his dad, we killed off his dad. He was not in the story to begin with. Like, he wasn't there. It was his mom. So, but I mean, the ability to, to temper his anger is really important. So all that to say that your simple question of what the age group is, it's about, I'm going to say 10 to like, I would say even as old as 14, 15. I mean, I know that, if you're an adult, you're going to read this book and you're going to love it. I would encourage the adults to let their child read it to them.
Yeah, I was going to say, let the kid read the book to you, and then you go do the workbook exercises, because I know hundreds of adults that could benefit from some of those, daily activities that you were just sharing there, talking to 5 people, the gratitude, like those are real life exercises that not just kids could benefit from. So, dude, this is exciting. I didn't know it was the first of a series. That makes it even more exciting. So obviously, with the release of this episode here, the end of November, we got Christmas coming up. What an amazing gift here, whether it's for your kids or kids in your life, uncles.
Too. There's going to be an audiobook.
There's an audiobook. So we'll get that all linked down there, unexplainableadventures.com. And then the Kindle will be on Amazon and everything as well.
Everything. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's going to be, obviously we are going to have an ebook, but this will be a hard copy as well.
Okay.
And to your point about the parents, man, it's awesome, because homeschooling has, Maura noticed this at first, there are subjects that you weren't interested in high school or whatever. And probably because the way it was rammed down your throat. But Maura has learned so much homeschooling with Desmond, in the earlier days, because she was able to approach these subjects that she didn't even know much about in a harmless environment where she's not going to be made felt to feel stupid because she didn't really remember certain things. And so for these parents, it's a non-threatening environment for them to pick up, hopefully, these, because we know parents, it's not like you grow up and you get this. Like, I'm aiming for the kids so we can hopefully head off some of the issues that all of us are walking around this world with,
Yeah. Well, I love you so much, man. This has been an incredible
Love you too,
conversation.
buddy.
I know you got a call here coming up. We typically have a question that we do end with. You answered it. I know the first time. I don't know if I asked you when Maura was on. We might have asked her. So I want to ask you a different question as we end here today. But
Yeah, you did ask me last time. I remember you asked me last time
what
too.
it means to be superhuman, yeah. So before I get to this last question here, just Danny, is there anything obviously, we'll get your Instagram, we'll get the YouTube, we'll get the podcast. Anywhere else you want to direct people to? Anything kind of in addition to the book, new and exciting. So yeah, what's going on in the world of Danny, and then we'll finish up with just one question I want to ask you here at the end.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, the our Fat Fuel Physique group coaching has been awesome. If you guys are looking for number one, someone to give you customized training programs with our app that we're partnered up with True Coach, fatfueled.family/shop is where our shop is. We have really plans for three different type of plans. The basic is going to be customized programs where you go into the app, you see what you got to do that day, and every exercise has a video attached to it. Then the plus is going to be that next level up. That's meal plans and macros. And then the VIP gives you all of that. And then we have bi-weekly group coaching sessions that I record and put into our VIP chat. So we've done we've only been doing this for a month. So we already did one on supplements. And then we did one on habit stacking last week that involves a challenge that we will be starting in January. My favorite way to do habit stacking, and so that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, we'll get all that link down there. I mean, obviously, if you didn't get it from today's conversation, Danny is an incredible just wealth of knowledge, experience on the keto, on the muscle building, on the designing a lifestyle, on the habit building, so forth and so forth. So check out the group coaching that they have there with all the information linked up down there below. So a question that I wanted to end here with, I didn't know where we were going to come in the conversation, but we haven't gotten a chance to it. We've touched on it here a couple times. You talked about kind of your anger, like wanting to kill people, so forth. One thing that Jordan Peterson talks about. I know you're a Peterson fan, and this was something that was kind of circulating on the internet, and I was resharing some of it on social media. He says a good man should be a dangerous man.
I love that,
and I truly love it. And I know for you, obviously your strength training, your physical development is a major role in your life. But today we talked about emotions and getting vulnerable and crying, and why I do believe all of that stuff is important. If men only focus on the emotions and only focus on their vulnerability, they're missing a major component of what it truly means to be a man. So if you can here, Danny, just maybe share your thoughts on why it's important for men to be physically developed, to be emotionally strong, to be physically strong, to be dangerous. What does that mean to you? I mean, you said you loved it. What does that mean? So just kind of here with 60 seconds, just kind of share your thoughts on kind of everything that I just said there. We'll bring today to a close.
I love that you said that one. I can't. My son by now can kind of spit this back to you verbatim, because whenever I see, and I broaden it a little bit with that whole thing. A nice man, a weak man is not a what is it? A weak man is not a nice man, because a weak man is not just someone who can't defend himself or who. It's also someone who's a victim. So of course you have to focus on developing yourself physically, because I notice, unless it's someone who's kind of brain dead and maybe has like a trust fund, you will always notice that people who discipline themselves physically get that automatic benefit that it starts to really go into the rest of your life. It really spreads in. Like if you know that if you can wake up on time and, eat a structured diet, whatever it is, be consistent with your training and your diet, that it's just gonna start bleeding into other areas of your life, 100%. But the other thing is, a weak man is not a nice man. Is like, obviously, because if I have the option to kill you, because I know that I can kill you, and I'm gonna kill you if I know that I can do that, but I choose not to. That's what it means to be nice and good. Just like if I was forced to give my money away to help poor people, I lose that benefit of being generous because it's being stolen from me. It's a very simple concept. You know, when there's no choice, you don't automatically become just if, you know, the consequences of you not doing it are something that's going to outside of you, that's going to hurt you, right? But it also means that you should not be a victim. And victims are weak. You know, victims are the ones who really do think that they deserve, you know, sympathy for not delivering on what they said they were going to do because of these circumstances. And they really truly believe that people are going to understand. And that's something that I've been telling my son is like, did you or didn't you? Period. It doesn't matter what your brother did. Like I've been trying to tell you, you know, and I know with that one, because I know that I still, you know, have times where I get pissed off when people don't act the way I want them to act, you know, like, or when results don't come the way I want them to come, even though I did quote unquote the right thing. So, you know, just taking it one step further, obviously, you know, you can't be a nice man if your only option is be nice or you're going to get your butt kicked, you know, that you're not nice. At the same time, you know, I also say that you are weak if you're a victim. You know, you really start to, this is for me the way I live it. And I tell Desmond, like, look, Desmond, I don't, like today, I can't train. I wanted to train now. You know, I thought I was going to go to the gym, and then Maura hadn't slept because she had an overnight flight. I have to take you to school, and I'm not complaining about it right now. Because that's my job. You know, that's just the same thing. If your brother, you shared it with him or you did whatever, and then which he still does. Like Dean is the one who really does bite the hand that feeds him. You know, like he does that with his brother because his brother helps him a lot. Look, bottom line, I get it. I'm going to deal with that. Let me deal with that with your brother. I promise you, you don't have to tell me because it's like this spirit of negativity that I cannot stand. And it's like once you get those wheels rolling, the pity train just keeps going. So that's just what I mean by, you know, a weak man is not a nice man, and a victim is a weak man. So you are not a nice man, and also your life is going to be very, very hard if you don't know how to not be a victim.
Absolutely love that. There's nothing virtuous about weakness.
Yep.
Incredible. Danny, I love you, bro. You're
Love you too, man.
Such an incredible friend, brother, more than anything. But you know how much respect I have for you and your role in the father, you know, that you're doing over there. Guys, go check out the Fat Fueled Family Coaching. Guys, Unexplainable Adventures. It's 99 cents. Get the ebook version. Whether or not you have kids, it's a book that every single person can experience. I've had the pleasure of browsing through it. I haven't sat down and read the entire thing. You did send me the advanced copy though, so really looking forward to, you know, grabbing a copy for. I got an 11-year-old nephew. This is right in his wheelhouse. One that loves to read. So I appreciate you for putting something out there that can benefit the next generation. I appreciate it and am incredibly grateful for all the work that you do with the podcast, just with you being a strong spiritual leader to the world, to the Tampa Bay area. I know you're doing a lot of amazing work here locally with the church, with Glory to Glory and all of that. So keep doing everything that you are doing. Let us know anything that we can continue to support you. Guys, get the book, check out the coaching, follow Danny, check out the podcast. More importantly, if you found value in today's conversation, continue to help us in one of two ways. First and foremost, if you're listening every single week and you haven't done so yet, what are you doing? Go leave a 5-star rating and written review. If you're listening because these conversations aren't good, leave a 1-star rating. Let us know where we suck. Let us know where we can improve. But more importantly, if somebody in your life needs to hear today's conversation, do us a blessing and do us a favor of sharing this with them. But for Danny Vega, Frank Rich, we love you guys. We'll see you next week.